Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're opening up a stack of newspaper sources covering quite the spectrum from local water politics in Karnataka and shifting global trade winds.
Right, all the way to the surprising science behind your AC settings, saving crucial minutes in urban traffic, and even the stark reality check of international finance.
Exactly. Our goal is to unpack these articles together, find the important nuggets, and connect the dots so you can walk away feeling truly informed. First up, we're diving into the Spotlight section, and a story that maps a pretty complex local controversy right now in Karnataka, India. It's all about the Hemavati Express Link Canal project.
And at its heart, the project is essentially designed to transfer water from one area, Tumakuru district, over to Magadi Taluk, which is located in Bengaluru South district.
The article takes us right to the scene on the ground in Sankapura village. Civil work for this project has been completely halted there. Big reason, a massive protest.
Yeah, a huge gathering on May 31st. We're talking around 20,000 farmers, according to the source. And they were joined by opposition politicians and even some religious figures.
So what happened right after? The article mentions police were deployed, and FIRs, those first information reports, were filed against over 100 people.
Right, including local legislators and these religious seers. Though it does say the government is thinking about withdrawing the charges against the seers specifically.
Okay, so what's actually driving this level of protest? The farmers' main concerns, as reported, aren't necessarily that they're against sharing water in principle, it sounds like.
It's more the form the project is taking. Their opposition is focused there.
Yeah, you hear perspectives from villagers like Govind Rao, who feels there just hasn't been enough consultation or technical discussion about the plans.
And then there's the very real worry, like from Siddhaganga, about losing valuable plantation land, because the project involves laying these underground pipelines.
That point about landowners seems critical. The article highlights how many didn't receive proper notices or detailed info about land acquisition. Led to confusion, even court cases.
Exactly. There's that specific example of BP Chandrasekhar. He got a permanent court order against the work after one of his coconut trees was cut down.
And the farmer's fear is practical, right? These underground pipelines, even if they allow surface activity, might stop them from growing their main crops, things like urkanut or coconut.
Yeah, the deep-rooted, high-value ones, that's the concern.
It helps to look at the project's history, too, for the context. It was initially approved back in 2019.
Right, when the JDS Congress government was in power, then the BJP government shelved it. Now the current Congress government revived it, Jan 2024.
And the work attempt in May led to this big protest.
Precisely. Now, getting into the technical side, the article describes this as, a significant undertaking. Costs around 1,000 crore.
Okay. And the plan is to take water from the Tumakuru branch canal.
Where exactly? Around the 70-kilometer mark, and transport it through a 34.5-kilometer underground pipeline.
Underground, okay. To where?
To the 165-kilometer mark of the same branch canal, so it bypasses a longer winding section of the original canal.
I see. And it's linked to another project, Sri Ranga Lift Irrigation.
Yes, and the goal is to fill 83 lakes in Magadi.
And how much water are we talking about here?
The specific volume mentioned is 0.67 Hemavati CFT. That's 1,000 million cubic feet.
Right. And to put that in perspective,
the article clarifies it's about 2.64% of the total 25.3 Hemavati CFT already allocated to the entire Tumakuru branch canal system.
Okay, so a relatively small percentage of the total flow and the stated purpose.
Drinking water and helping replenish groundwater levels in Magadi.
But this links back to the Tumakuru farmers' fears, doesn't it?
It does. They worry that once this new, shorter underground route is active, the water flow will gain more force due to gravity,
potentially reducing the amount available to their parts of the canal.
That's the fear. And they also question the high cost of 1,000 crore for this pipeline, when a previous canal modification cost much less, around 550 crore, apparently.
What's the government's justification for the underground pipe, then?
Their argument, presented in the source, is primarily about preventing water theft and reducing evaporation loss. Illegal pumping is apparently widespread in the Tumakuru area, so this is seen as securing the supply.
Which brings up the bigger picture issue, right? The sharing of that 25.3 Timasima CFT among all the taluks it serves.
Exactly. It's a long-standing bone of contention, how to share that water among the 14 taluks. And Magadi is one of those beneficiary taluks.
So what did the Water Resources Department officials say?
Well, their counter-arguments, according to the article, are that Magadi is actually within the Kaveri River Basin, and it received its water allocation back in 2019.
So not an interbasin transfer in their view.
Correct. They also stress that providing drinking water is a first-order priority under national and state water policies, and the basin boundary, not the district boundary, is the criterion. They point out similar transfers have happened elsewhere, Sira and Hosadurga to Luke's.
There's also historical context about the Hemavati water sharing from the Gore Reservoir.
Yes, the reservoir holds 37 TMLE CFT total. Tumakuru and Mandian districts got the biggest allocations historically, 45% and 35%. Hassan district, where the reservoir actually is,
And where people lost land for it.
they only get 18%. The article mentions an official suggesting Hassan farmers could have pushed for more back then.
Interesting. And there's a mention of a SCADA mechanism for regulation.
Right, SCADA supervisory control and data acquisition. Basically an electronic system to measure and regulate flow, make the data accessible. A technical fix, potentially.
But then there's the political layer, which seems pretty strong here.
Very much so. The Deputy Chief Minister, D.K. Shivakumar, who holds the irrigation portfolio, his brother, a relative who's an MLA, they reportedly have a keen interest.
And the opposition from the JDS party in Tumakuru is seen as
A challenge to their political influence, particularly in Bangalore South, the target area. The Gobi MLA also opposes it.
But farmers in Magadi are pushing for it.
They are organizing, questioning the absence of the local BJP MP, and the article even hints at a caste dimension being brought up, Lingayats versus Vocaligas.
It gets complicated fast. And the Deputy CM's final word.
Shivakumar's view, as stated, is that the project was technically cleared years ago, 40% of the work is done, and the protest is politically motivated. Stopping it isn't an option, he says. Really shows the tangle of local issues, state politics, technical details.
Okay, let's shift gears completely now, moving away from water politics to international economics. Our next article is from the editorial section. Looks at former U.S. President Trump's approach to tariffs and the challenges for U.S.-India trade.
What's fascinating here is the starting point. The article reveals that the biggest legal challenge to Trump's really wide-ranging tariffs.
These are the ones hitting overrun countries. Rates from 10 to, 135%.
Exactly. That challenge didn't come from other nations initially. It came from 5 small U.S. businesses. Wines, plastics, bicycles.
Really? Just small businesses?
Yep. Musical circuits, fishing equipment. They took the administration to court.
And that's significant because...
Right to a fundamental principle. Separation of powers in the U.S. system. They argued the executive order, supposedly under this national emergency, related to trade deficits...
was overstepping the president's legal authority, bypassing Congress.
That was the core argument, that the executive acted without proper checks and balances.
And the administration's justification was that national emergency claim, linked to trade deficits.
Precisely. They argued the deficits were harming the U.S. economy.
But the article offers a really interesting counterpoint on trade deficits. It says they aren't always bad.
Right. It argues they can show consumer wealth people buying imports. But more importantly, it points out a critical flaw in how the administration calculated things.
What was the flaw?
They completely ignored U.S. exports of services.
Ah, and that makes a difference.
A huge difference. The article gives the example with India. That $44.4 billion trade deficit the administration cited, it actually flips to a $40 billion surplus for the U.S. when you include services, digital, financial, education, plus arms sales.
Wow, that's a completely different picture.
Totally different. And the U.S. Court of International Trade, the USCIT, actually agreed with some of these challenges, ruled on May 28, 2025, that the tariffs had exceeded the executive's legal authority.
So the court pushed back.
Strongly. Warned against using national emergency, casually said it can't be the death knell of the Constitution or let the president rewrite trade deals alone. Quite a statement.
Okay, but here's where it gets complicated, right? The real-world impact.
Yeah, it's limited so far. An appeals court actually temporarily blocked that ruling the very next day.
So the tariffs are still in place.
Yeah.
And the pressure for trade deals continues.
Exactly. Trump's argument to the court was that the tariffs provided negotiation leverage.
And the article mentions potential future challenges. This Trump One Big Beautiful Bill, OBB.
Yes. Promises of potentially more egregious executive actions. The article even suggests it might try to grant the executive immunity from judicial orders. Big questions about checks and balances there.
Okay, so shifting focus to India's position in all this. Both countries want a trade agreement before a July 8 deadline.
That's what the article notes. But despite the talks, the U.S. actually increased tariffs on Indian steel and aluminum. Steel went from 25% to 50%, Aluminum 10% to 50%.
Wait, even after India withdrew a WTO case against the U.S. in 2023 as part of a deal?
Seems so, which is counterintuitive to say the least.
And the WTO context adds more layers. Panels ruled against Trump's earlier tariffs.
Yes. Finding they didn't meet the national security justification under WTO rules for other countries, and the U.S. is still resisting any potential retaliation from India.
The article also touches on the U.S.-China dynamic. It's not as simple as India just benefiting from U.S. pressure on China.
Apparently not. There's a U.S.-China truce on retaliatory tariffs, plus U.S. threats about tariffs on Apple if it makes things in India. It makes the idea of India gaining a clear strategic advantage uncertain, really highlights the, transactional approach.
So what does the article suggest for India in these trade talks? How should they navigate this?
Well, it stresses careful balancing of interests. India needs to push hard for removing these extra tariffs on its exports.
And address concerns about retaliation against U.S. investments in India, like with Apple.
Exactly. That's crucial. Plus, ensuring that proposed 3.5% tax on remittances in the OBBB doesn't hit Indian citizens in the U.S.
What else? Digital services taxes.
Yes, get assurance against retaliation on those. And critically, the article highlights the H-1B visa issue. That's absolutely vital for India's services exports to the U.S. Needs to be addressed.
And sorting out cross-border services trade rules, data flows, regulation.
That too. But maybe the most important point the article makes is for India to align firmly with WTO commitments. It argues WTO rules are the best safeguard in this uncertain environment, especially when big players disregard them.
Interesting. The conclusion is that Trump's tariffs might face internal challenges, but India needs to be ready to walk away.
Essentially, yes. Needs to be strong enough strategically to say no to a suboptimal deal, even if the tariffs might be short-lived anyway.
All right, let's shift gears again, over to the science section. 2 articles here. First one explores the science behind setting your air conditioner temperature. Not just comfort, but health and energy savings.
Right. And the context is India's Union Ministry of Power. They're reportedly considering restricting the temperature range for new ACs. Homes, hotels, cars, proposed range, 20 to 28 degrees Celsius.
This isn't totally new, is it? The article mentions previous discussions.
Yeah, 2018 and 2021. Back then, suggestions leaned towards defaulting new ACs to 24 degrees C after awareness campaigns.
Okay, let's hit the energy argument first. That seems pretty clear-cut.
It's very clear. The science shows every 1 degree C increase in your AC setting saves about 6% electricity.
6% per degree.
Wow. And a Bureau of Energy Efficiency, or BEE, study backs that 24 degree C recommendation. They estimate it could save, get this, 20 billion units of electricity per year nationally if widely adopted.
20 billion units. That's massive, especially considering how much AC use is growing, right?
Yeah.
Expected to hit 200 GW load by 2030.
Exactly. Huge potential savings. But here's where it gets really interesting, the health argument.
Okay, tell me about that. Setting ACs too low is unhealthy.
That's the case the article makes, especially below 18 degrees C. Studies show blood pressure can rise pretty quickly when you're exposed to temps below 18 degrees C.
Why does that happen?
It's due to vasoconstriction, your blood vessels narrowing, and sympathetic activation, part of the stress response. Over time, repeated exposure could potentially raise the long-term risk of hypertension, high blood pressure.
And it mentioned something about children breathing easier.
Yes. Trials suggesting kids breathed easier when sleeping in rooms set above 18 degrees C.
Let's get some global context. How widespread is AC use?
The IEA estimated 2 billion ACs globally in 2018. Residential units tripled to 1.5 billion by 2022. Huge numbers.
But still large parts of the world lack cooling.
Right. 43% in Asia-Pacific still need it, highlighting the growing demand.
How does an AC actually work? Briefly.
Basically, it pumps heat from inside your room to outside, requires power, uses a refrigerant fluid, it absorbs heat inside, evaporator, a compressor pushes the hot fluid outside where it releases heat, condenser, then it expands and cools to start again.
And the compressor uses the most power.
Generally, yes. And efficiency is linked to the temperature range it operates in. Pushing for extreme cold takes more work, more power.
Okay, back to the health risks below 18 degrees C, besides hypertension.
Increased risks of asthma symptoms, respiratory infections for the general population.
The article also talks about comfort. What's the scientific definition?
It's about maintaining your core body temp around 37 degrees C and skin temp without sweating or shivering. Minimal discomfort, less than 10% feeling too hot or cold. Standards adjust this based on clothing, climate, etc.
And the ideal temperature for shedding body heat at rest.
A body at rest gives off about 100 W heat, 24 degrees C lets you shed this without sweating or restricting blood flow much. And comfort zones can rise a bit as outside temps go up.
What about sleep? Colder is better.
Some studies suggest 19 degrees C might help core temp drop for sleep in younger adults. But infants and older adults might be better off and safer, closer to 19 degrees C. Their regulation isn't as strong.
And the WHO has a recommendation.
Yes, 18 degrees C is the minimum safe living room temp, especially in cooler climates, based on studies showing jumps in heart and lung hospital admissions below that.
The article cites quite a few specific studies linking cold indoors to health issues.
It does, really reinforces the point. 2014 study, under 18 degrees C linked to 9% of hypertension risk. 2016 study, colder homes linked to higher cholesterol, weaker grip strength.
Wow. Another 2016 study, people over 50.
Below 18 degrees C, 16% had higher blood pressure, lower vitamin D, poorer lung function. 2013 study on kids, lower lung function with each degree dropped below 16 degrees C in bedrooms.
And even mental health, a UK study.
Yeah, 2022 study linked cold homes to twice the risk of depression and anxiety.
So the takeaway is pretty clear. Moving toward a higher AC temperature range, like 28 degrees C.
It's strongly supported. Clear public health benefits, avoiding those risks of being too cold, plus the huge energy savings. Seems like a win-win based on the science presented.
Staying in the science section, our second article tackles a really critical urban issue, using technology to reclaim the golden hour in traffic, to save lives.
Yeah, and the article starts powerfully. In medical emergencies, time is often the difference between life and death. And urban traffic, it just eats up those crucial minutes, undermines medical health.
It frames traffic delays as a major cause of preventable deaths, often overlooked.
Absolutely. Studies confirm it. Ambulance delays increase trauma deaths, worsen outcomes generally.
The article gives some stark examples of delays. Delhi.
Average ambulance response time over 17 minutes now, up from 13 minutes in 2014, despite more ambulances on the road.
And Karnataka. A CAG report
found nearly 90,000 crash victims didn't get timely care due to ambulance issues, and 6,000 faced dispatch delays over 30 minutes. That's terrible.
National average response time is high, too. 25-30 minutes. Worse in rural areas.
Yes, and NCRB data shows significant accident deaths happen in transit before reaching the hospital.
Which brings us back to that golden hour. The first 60 minutes after severe trauma or acute events.
Absolutely critical. Stroke, cardiac arrest, serious injuries. That window is vital for survival and good outcomes. And in congested cities, it's often lost just sitting in traffic.
So what are hospitals and authorities trying to do? What technologies?
GPS-based ambulance tracking is a key one. Real-time tracking, dynamic route optimization to find the fastest way, early alerts to hospitals so they can prepare.
Has that shown results?
Yes, the article mentions 12–15% reduction in response times in Chennai and Kolkata, and improved door-to-CT scan times for stroke patients, which is critical for treatment. What about changing traffic lights? Traffic signal preemption, pilot projects where ambulances trigger green lights automatically, shown promise in cutting journey times.
But there's a catch. Infrastructure.
Big catch. Fewer than 1 in 5 urban signals in India can even support these systems. Most are still manual or just timer-based. Big gap there.
Another approach mentioned is bike ambulances.
Yes, these have proven invaluable, especially in gridlocked or narrow streets.
Karnataka's Platinum 10 Minutes initiative.
Great example. Bike ambulances were first responders in a third of Bengaluru trauma cases. Arrived in a median time of under 6 minutes.
Under 6 minutes. Compared to traditional ambulances.
Less than half the time. That early arrival, early stabilization, it's life-saving.
But even with these technologies, barriers remain, besides infrastructure.
Yeah, technology gaps like GPS signal loss, uncharged devices, software glitches, those happen.
And then there's the human element, public apathy.
This is a huge one highlighted in the article. Surveys show 62% of ambulance drivers report motorists refusing to yield. 45% have to ask drivers to move weekly.
That's incredibly frustrating and dangerous.
It really is. So overcoming these delays needs more than just tech. It needs coordinated action traffic authorities, hospitals, the public, and much stricter enforcement of ambulance right-of-way laws.
The article's core point is quite stark, isn't it? When the golden hour is lost to traffic.
It's not just a delay. It's often a preventable death, a real call to action for everyone on the road, really.
Okay, finally, for today's deep dive, we turn to the text section. An article discussing Moody's recent downgrade of the U.S. credit rating. Seems quiet, but has big implications.
Exactly. The article notes the downgrade on May 16th didn't cause immediate market panic, but it marks a silent yet very significant shift, something foreshadowed for years.
Signaling the end of an era. Unchallenged U.S. fiscal supremacy.
That's the argument. The idea that U.S. Treasury bonds were uniquely, absolutely safe. For most of the post-war period, that trust was based on U.S. institutions, political stability, capacity for self-correction.
But that trust is eroded. The debt is a big factor.
Huge factor. National debt over 120% of GDP and not receding. The article mentions Trump's big new bill potentially adding more. Contrasts with the post-WWII era when the U.S. actively reduced debt.
And the post-2008 period.
Emergency spending led to what the article calls an addiction to deficit finance. Borrowing became the default. The subtle erosion of confidence, partly political stability too, led to Moody's action.
What are the global implications then? Beyond Wall Street.
It signals shifting global financial allegiances. The dollar's centrality, while still there, is being quietly challenged. Economies are exploring alternatives. Central banks hedging with gold is mentioned as a sign.
So, markets shrugged for now, but the article suggests.
History shows unravelings often begin quietly. Costs appear later. The downgrade punctured the illusion of permanence. The world's looking beyond the dollar-centric system.
Okay, here's the pivot. How does this reflect on India? The article calls it a mirror.
Yes. Less about the U.S., more about what it reveals about India's own financial vulnerabilities, fiscal habits, maybe a reluctance to learn until crisis hits.
What are India's specific vulnerabilities highlighted?
Our economy isn't immune to global contractions. General government debt near 80% of GDP means limited buffers, especially risky with rising global interest rates.
Right. As U.S. yields rise, investors reprice emerging market debt. India's vulnerable.
Despite our growth, yes, higher borrowing costs become a risk.
The 2013 taper tantrum is mentioned as a past example.
Exactly. Capital outflows hit the rupee, exposed dependence on external financing. A similar shift now would pressure the RBI, complicate deficit management, test our ability to protect growth without fueling inflation.
The article also mentions a deeper malaise in India's fiscal culture. Fiscal populism.
Yeah, the tendency, especially pre-elections, for open tabs of irrational fiscal exuberance. Giveaways limited only by creativity, the article suggests. Loan waivers, free power, things that strain finances.
And the negative ripple effects of that.
High deficits crowd out private investment, distort credit, leave little room for developmental capital spending. Plus structural issues, low tax compliance, judicial delays, logistics, education, ad friction, slow momentum.
So the U.S. downgrade is a moment for introspection, not just for India.
For many countries, the article suggests, Brazil, South Africa, even Germany, Canada face scrutiny. Credibility must be earned and maintained. Prestige isn't protection.
So the call to action for India isn't panic.
No, but pause, reflect, act with fiscal caution and discipline, not just for crises, but as foundational for resilience.
And caution doesn't mean austerity, it means strategic clarity.
Exactly. Short, medium, long-term goals. Invest in core foundations, job-creating infrastructure, future-ready skills, systems beyond election cycles. Resist populism that wins votes but doesn't build trust or capacity. Structural reforms, trade diversification too.
The final thought is powerful. Losing credibility is quiet but expensive.
Very expensive in an age of mobile capital. The U.S. showed prestige isn't protection. India should learn that lesson early, from afar. Really makes you think about the links between domestic choices and global standing.
Thank you for listening. If today's episode gave you something useful, consider following us on Spotify so you're the first to hear the next one. You can give suggestions by contacting our Twitter handle given in the episode description. We're always eager to hear what our listeners want to be informed about. We wish you a great day.